for being so respectful and ready and responsible. And we're all going to give our undivided attention to a very important man named Mr. Abner Ganet. Give him a round of applause, please.
Thank you, Liz. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I think this is the second or the third year that I've been here to Jackson. When in 1943, I was a senior at Marshall High School on the west side of the city of Chicago. The war, the Second World War, had begun in 1941. In 1943, I was 17, and I decided that I wanted to enlist in the Army. And the reason that I wanted to enlist in the Army was because I knew that the Army is the only branch of service that would be effective in fighting Hitler and the Nazis in Germany. And I happen to be Jewish, and I knew what was happening to the Jews in Europe because part of my parents' families lived still in Europe, and they were part of the people who were killed by Hitler in the Holocaust from 1932 to 1945. They let me finish high school, and after I finished high school, I was transferred down to Fort Benning, Georgia, where I trained in Fort Benning as an infantryman. Infantry in World War II were the soldiers who really fought the war. We were the first ones in battle. We didn't have jeeps. We didn't have... There's an old buddy of mine walking in there, Jack Gale. Hi, Jack. Liz's grandfather. Nice to see you, Jack. They let me finish basic training, and the infantry in World War II were the soldiers who walked. We didn't have jeeps, we didn't have Humvees, we didn't have armored personnel carriers. All we had were our 2 legs and our 2 feet. So I trained in Fort Benning, Georgia for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then was transferred down to Louisiana, where I trained with the 106th Infantry Division. We trained in Louisiana, in the swamps of Louisiana, and what we did, besides training in guns and physical fitness, we had to take very, very long marches, especially at night. These were marches 15 to 25 miles every other night, and it was very, very difficult training. In January of 1944, a bunch of us soldiers were put on a train and we were sent up to New York. And in New York, we got on a ship called the Mauritania. This was a very large ocean liner. The Germans had been sinking American ships going across the Atlantic left and right with their submarines. And we used to send convoys with material and manpower over across the ocean, and we had Navy people, naval guns and everything, to try and stop the submarines. But the ship that we were on, the Mauritania, was a very, very fast ocean liner, and we were faster than any of the submarines. So we went across the ocean in 5 days. We landed in Southampton, England, and then were put on lorries, trucks that the British had, and we were sent up to a camp in the middle eastern part of Great Britain, of England. We trained there on the coast of the English Channel with landing crafts where we pretended to come into the coast of England, and we'd scale the cliffs of Dover. These were big cliffs which we had to learn how to climb, because we knew that if the invasion of France was to begin, that we would have the same kind of topography, the same kind of cliffs in France that we have in England. So we trained there until
the middle of, end of May. At the end of May, we were transferred down to Southampton again. And we were, this group that I was with, we were to be replacements. Replacements meant we were going to take the place of soldiers who preceded us in action, who were either killed or wounded. We were not assigned to a specific unit. The invasion of France was to take place on June the 5th, 1944. But the weather on June the 5th was very, very poor, and our aircraft could not fly in that kind of bad weather. So it was postponed until June the 6th, 1944. Early in the morning on June the 6th, we began to hear airplanes flying overhead. Have any of you seen the movie Band of Brothers or Saving Private Ryan? Raise your hands. A lot of you have. The airplanes that were flying overhead that early in the morning on June the 6th carried the 101st Airborne Division, which was a Band of Brothers, and the 82nd Airborne Division, which was Saving Private Ryan. These were paratroopers in those planes who were sent behind the German lines to attack them from the rear. As the sun rose at about 4 o'clock in the morning that June the 6th, we began to see ships going back and forth across the English Channel. So we knew that the invasion had begun. At about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we were loaded on landing crafts and sent across the English Channel. On board the landing craft with me were a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old soldiers who had never been in combat. When we got to within maybe 150 to 200 feet of the beach, the door of the landing craft dropped, and we stood ready to jump into the English Channel. And what we saw in front of us was the English Channel was pink with the blood of American soldiers, and there were bodies of American soldiers floating in the water. So it was a little upsetting for us 18, 19-year-olds to see death as we were witnessing that morning. I jumped off the landing craft and water up to about my neck. I weighed 93 pounds in 1944. I was a very skinny kid. I had my pack, my rifle, my belt with everything that I had in my belt. And I walked to the beach. The Germans were still firing at us from the pillboxes they had up on the hills at Omaha Beach. I finally got to the beach, and I was grabbed by a lieutenant. He says, "You come with me." And he pulled me over to the side. He says, "You are now in the 1st Infantry Division, 26th Infantry Regiment in M Company. You're going to be a machine gunner." A machine gun squad in World War II consisted of 5 soldiers. There was a gunner who carried the tripod or the bipod on which the gun sat. And next man was the assistant gunner. He carried the gun. And there were 3 ammunition carriers. Each of us ammunition carriers had to carry 2 cans of 30 caliber machine gun ammunition. And each of those cans weighed about 20 pounds. So between the 2 cans and everything else that I had on my back, it weighed a heck of a lot more than I weighed at that point. We fought on the beach for another couple of days. The Germans were, until we finally knocked the pillboxes out. And then we went up a road beside the cliffs in Normandy. And when we got up to the top of this hill, what we saw in front of us were hedgerows. These were bushes about 3 feet wide and about 6 to 6.5 feet high. Now the French farmers planted these hedgerows to separate one farm from another. The Germans knew that we'd have to go down this road to get into France. So they put machine guns and mortars behind the hedgerows, and we were subjected to firing, firing, as we were fighting down the road. The Germans knew that we'd have to go down this road to get into France. So they put machine guns and mortars behind the hedgerows, and we were subjected to firing as we went firing down the road. The Germans knew that we'd have to go down this road to get into France. So they put machine guns and mortars behind the hedgerows, and we were subjected to firing as we went It took us over 30 days, almost 40 days, to clear the hedgerow areas. During that time, 2 members of my squad were either killed or wounded, and I moved up from the 3rd ammunition carrier to be the 1st ammunition carrier, and I got 1 stripe. I was a PFC, and my pay was $26 a month. After we got up, finally cleared the hedgerows, we were detached from our unit, and we were sent down to Paris to help liberate the city of Paris, France. The French were extremely happy to see us at that point. So we were in Paris for about 3 days. We drove the Germans out of Paris. And after that, we went up to Belgium, and we liberated the country of Belgium. Again, the Belgian people were extremely happy to see us. After we liberated Belgium, we moved into the Hurtgen Forest. The Hurtgen Forest was a very thickly planted pine tree forest, which had trees about 3 or 3.5 feet apart, and they were very tall trees. Now, we couldn't see the Germans, nor could they see us. But what they did was they fired their artillery, their long guns, into the forest, and when the shells hit the trees, they burst, and we were showered with shrapnel from the artillery shells. We lost another member of our squad, and I moved up to be the assistant gunner carrying the tripod. It took us about almost a month to clear the Hurtgen Forest. After we cleared the Hurtgen Forest, we moved into Germany, and we came to the city of Aachen. Aachen was the first large German city that the American Army had taken. We surrounded the city. Our division consisted of about 22,000 soldiers. We surrounded the city of Aachen, and our commander sent one of his emissaries, one of his lieutenants, in to meet with the German commander, who had his headquarters in a church in the center of the city. This soldier that the general sent told the German commander that we had surrounded the city, that unless he surrendered his troops, our Air Force would come in and bomb the city, and we would destroy him and all his troops. He refused. So that began a more than a month-long siege of the city of Aachen. On about the 40th day, my machine gun was in a hotel, and when the gun was facing the door of the church in which the German commander had his headquarters. The German commander came out of the church waving a white flag of surrender, and we did not shoot him. The saddest part of this battle, all battles were sad, but there were 22,000 American and German soldiers who were killed in the battle for Aachen. 2,000 American soldiers and 20,000 German soldiers. It was the largest loss of life of any battle in any of the wars except the Civil War. Tremendous loss of life because of the stubbornness and the stupidity of this German general. After we finally took Aachen, we were taken out of the line because we had been fighting since D-Day, since June, and this was already in the early part of December. And we were told we're going back to Belgium for a 3-week rest. So we went back to Belgium. We hadn't had showers since D-Day, since about June the 4th. We didn't smell too good. We hadn't had clean uniforms. We hadn't had hot food. And we were running low on ammunition. So we went back to Belgium. We got clean uniforms, had showers, got good food, and we got re-outfitted with ammunition. Now at that time, the German Army were sending rockets. They were called V2 rockets into Belgium, into France, into England, and they were landing very close to where we were in Belgium. So the rumors were that we were going to be going back to get out of the range of these rockets. At that point, it began to get very, very cold. If you think we had cold weather this winter here in Villa Park, we had below zero weather that began about the fourth day of December, and it began to snow. And the snow was, you couldn't see a hand in front of your face. It was coming down so heavily. On the third night that we were there, we were told, get all your gear together, we're moving out. So we all assumed we were going to go back. Well, we got on the trucks and proceeded out of Belgium. And on the road after we got almost out of Belgium, we began to see American soldiers walking in the opposite direction from which we were going in the trucks. And we stopped the trucks and we said, who are you? And they said, we're part of the 99th and the 102nd Divisions. The Germans have counterattacked and we are retreating. Now these soldiers didn't have helmets, they didn't have guns. They were walking dejectedly down the road with their heads down like whipped puppies. So we knew then that we were going up into battle rather than back to get away from the V-2 rockets, the buzz bombs. We continued on with the trucks about another couple of miles, and then we were told to get off the trucks and start walking down this road. So we did, and we walked probably a couple miles down the road. We were told to stop and dig in. So we put 2 machine guns on one side of the road, 2 machine guns on the other side of the road, and the ground had frozen at the ground level. So we used hand grenades, which we dug into the ground, exploded the hand grenades, and then were able to loosen the soil and able to dig holes, like a hole to stand behind the machine gun, which was the hole was about 4 feet deep. Now we were ill prepared for the conditions which we were facing. We didn't have sweaters, we didn't have gloves, we didn't have waterproof boots, and we were standing behind the machine gun 2 hours on and 2 hours off. Now the snow kept falling, didn't stop. And as the snow fell into the machine gun holes, the ground 4 feet below the top level of the ground was warm, so the snow melted. Now we didn't have rubber boots. We had great leather boots, but they were not waterproof. So if you're standing in water all the time, the water's going to penetrate your boots. The only good thing we didn't have sweaters or anything else. The only good thing we had 2 pairs of socks. And we were told by our medical corps, every day, take the wet pair of socks off that are on your feet and put them inside your uniform at your chest and let them dry out. And the next day, take the dry socks off from inside your uniform, put them on your feet and on your feet, and then take the wet socks off and let them dry out. Every day you should do this. Well, some of our soldiers were too dumb or too stupid, and they didn't listen to what they were told by the medical corps. And many of them lost their toes, and some of them lost their feet from a gangrene type of disease, which caused by moisture in your boots. Anyway, we didn't have portable toilets in the Army. What we used to do, we dig a trench about 1.5 feet wide and about 3 feet long. And up on a little rise above where our machine gun positions were, we put double barbed wire around this slit trench. And to the barbed wire, we attached empty C-ration cans. C-rations were our food, which we got in cans about the size of a Campbell's soup can. And after we emptied the food, ate the food, we had put rocks into the cans and attached the rocks to the barbed wire. Well, we were stupid because it was snowing. The snow got into the cans and the temperature was below zero, and the rocks froze. So there was no way that these rocks in the cans were going to rattle. And one day, I'm up over the slit trench, I dropped my pants, and I look to my right, and I see white shadows going to my right. Now the Germans were smarter than we were. They had dark green uniforms, but on top of their dark green uniforms, they put white sheets, and they melded right in with the snow. You couldn't see them because they looked like they were in the snow. So I pulled my pants up, jumped back over the hole, ran to the machine gun, turned the machine gun around, and destroyed this squad of German soldiers who had tried to patrol through us. This happened every day. The Germans sent patrols through, we sent patrols through, fought every day. This battle was called the Battle of the Bulge. I'll ask any of you bright 7th graders if you know why it was called the Battle of the Bulge. Can someone raise their hand and tell me why it was called the Battle of the Bulge? Anybody know? Okay. The Battle of the Bulge was, we were the 1st division, my division. We were on the left flank of 3 divisions. The division in the middle was the 101st Airborne Division, which was Band of Brothers. The 82nd Airborne Division, which was Saving Private Ryan, were on the right flank. And we were told, you guys have to stop the Germans in the Battle of the Bulge. Well, the Germans pushed at the city of Bastogne, Belgium. They pushed the 101st Airborne back. And that created a bulge in the lines. Instead of a straight line, there was a bulge where the Germans had pushed the 101st Airborne back. The German commander sent one of his lieutenants in to meet the American general, who was named General McAuliffe. And the German lieutenant told General McAuliffe, you're surrounded, you better surrender, because unless you surrender, you're going to be wiped out. Well, General McAuliffe said 3 famous words to the German lieutenant. He said, nuts to you. Do any of you know what nuts to you means? Any of you bright 7th graders know what the words nuts to you means? Okay. It means, heck no, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I want you to remember those 3 words. And anytime someone tells you to do something and you don't want to do it, tell them nuts to you. They'll look at you like you're crazy, but you tell them you won't do it. Now this only pertains to people other than your parents or your teachers. Don't ever tell your teachers nuts to you because you'll be suspended. If you ever, and don't ever tell your parents that because you'll probably get a whipping. So remember those 3 words, nuts to you. They didn't surrender. At that point, they were surrounded by Germans. And a tank destroyer unit, which was run, and all of the members of the tank destroyer unit were African Americans. This was the first time in World War II that African American soldiers were allowed to carry guns. And this tank destroyer unit came into the city of Bastogne and drove the Germans out of the city of Bastogne. And that then straightened the line out in the Battle of the Bulge. It took us until about January the 25th, because the weather didn't clear until that time. At that point, our Air Force came in and was able to destroy any of the rest of the German soldiers who were out in front of us. We went at that point to the Rhine River. The Rhine River, the longest river in Germany, had bridges up and down the Rhine River. But the Germans had destroyed all of the bridges going east-west across the river, except one. The one they hadn't destroyed was the Remagen Bridge in Ludendorff, Germany. This was a railroad bridge. We came to the bridge, and we assumed that they had put explosives underneath the bridge to destroy the bridge to stop us from going across. So we sent our engineers in, and they defused the explosives which were underneath the bridge. And we crossed the Rhine on the Remagen with part of the 7th Armored Division. We fought about another 3 or 4 miles, and we came to a German airfield. There were still German fighter aircraft on the ground, Messerschmitts and Stuka bombers. We destroyed all the aircraft. At that point, my company commander called me over and he said, "How would you like to go to Paris for a 3-day rest?" I said, "Captain, with all due respect, we're fighting a war. How can we go to Paris for a 3-day rest?" He said, "I've been ordered to send one member of our company to go to Paris for a 3-day rest." I said, "I'd love to go, Captain, but I have no money." He said, "How much do you think you'll need?" I said, "Probably $50. So he said, "If I lend you 50, will you pay me back?" I said, "Yes, I will." But I was getting $26 a month, and I was sending that home to my mother. So I said, "It's going to take a couple of months for me to pay it back." He said, "Fine." So he gave me $50. He said, "Go back across the river, and there'll be trucks that can take you and other members of the 1st Division to Paris for a 3-day rest." So I went back. The Remagen Bridge was still up. We were building pontoon bridges up across the river at that point. And I crossed the river, got a bunch of guys from the 1st Division, we went to Paris, had a great time for 3 days. And when I came back, the Remagen Bridge had collapsed. But I went across on a pontoon bridge. I got to the airfield, I thought our group would have gone further than that. But when I got there, they were still there. So I went to see the company commander, and he said, "Did you have a good time in Paris?" I said, "Yes, thanks to you." He said, "I've got good news and bad news for you. Which would you like first?" I said, "Give me the bad news first." He said, "While you were gone, the Germans counterattacked in an effort to retake the airfield, and we lost 40% of our company." I'll ask you 7th graders, what is 40% of 220? There were 220 soldiers in our company. What's, yes, in red, stand up. 88, correct. 40% of 220 is 88. We lost 88 soldiers when the Germans counterattacked in an effort to retake the field. He said, and I began to cry, because these are guys I was with from D-Day on until that point in late January, early February. And he said, "Do you want the good news now?" I said, "Yeah, I suppose." How much time do I have, please?
45 minutes.
Okay. Thanks. He said, "How much?" He said, "You're now a tech sergeant," which meant I got 4 more stripes. My pay went from $26 a month to $78 a month, and I was able to pay the captain back in one pay. But I hadn't sought this promotion. I got it on the backs of my buddies who were either killed or wounded when I was in Paris. So it was not a promotion which I sought. And the captain said to me, "You're going to have to train people who are going to come in and serve now. And you're going to have to train them how to stay alive fighting this battle." So we kept on fighting, and we came to the city of Coburg, Germany. Coburg was a beautiful old city, as all these German cities were. And the British Air Force had bombed the city of Coburg. But what they hadn't bombed was a castle that was right on the outskirts of the city of Coburg. We were told, "You're going to stay in the castle for 3 days, and under no circumstances I either take anything from the castle or touch anything in the castle. Now, we were in the infantry, as I told you, we walked. Anything that we took, we had to put in our backpacks. So the less weight we had, the better off we were. So we got into this castle, and it was like something in Alice in Wonderland. Crystal chandeliers, beautiful oil paintings on the walls. And we came into this castle, and we opened the door of what was the grand ballroom of this castle. And it was a room probably twice as big as this gymnasium. And on the left wall of this castle were two oil paintings. One of King George V of England, and next to him Queen Mary, the Queen of England. King George and Queen Mary in 1944 are the grandparents of the present Queen Elizabeth of England, the woman who's now Queen of England. And I stood there and looked and I said, what are these two British monarchs' paintings doing in this German castle? And then I remembered. Do any of you know who Queen Victoria's husband, what Queen Victoria's husband's name was? Any of you know? Any teachers know? Okay. Queen Victoria's husband was named Albert. Albert was the Duke of Coburg. Albert and Victoria were the great-great-great-grandparents of the present Queen Elizabeth. So we knew why the castle wasn't bombed. We stayed in the castle for 3 days, and on the third day, I was in the library of this castle, a huge library with a ceiling about 20 feet high, which had step ladders and rails around the library so you could reach the higher stacks. And as I was standing there, I saw 3 huge volumes, little books, and I said, I have to take something. So I took 3 books out of the stacks in the library and threw them into my pack. I'm on the board of trustees of Elmhurst College in Elmhurst. And I had these books, I took them home with me. I had them rebound. And I donated them to the German department at Elmhurst College. We continued fighting into Germany. And on April the 1st, Easter Sunday, 1945, we came to the city of Ruthin. Ruthin was an old city, and I was in the lead jeep. We had jeeps at that point. And I had a light machine gun mounted on the jeep. And I came to the gate of this town, and normally they had iron gates across the entrance to their town. But they had removed the iron gates, and instead of that, they put telephone poles into the ground to stop us from coming through. I couldn't get through, so I radioed back to my engineers and said, come in and get rid of this roadblock. At that point, I saw a doorway about maybe 10 or 15 feet from the area of the gates where the Jeep was. So I took the machine gun off the Jeep. It had a belt with 250 rounds of ammunition in it. And I opened up 2 other cans of 30 caliber ammunition and put the belts around my neck. And I went to the gate, this doorway that I saw. I laid down on the ground, and what I saw in front of me at about 250 yards were hundreds and hundreds of German soldiers milling around the center of this town by a church. So I began firing the machine gun. I fired 2 belts, 500 bullets, 500 rounds of ammunition. And I was very successful in killing a lot of German soldiers. At that point, the gun became very hot. So I had to let it cool off. And as it began to cool off, I was putting the 3rd belt into the gun. And I heard beside me, pop, pop, pop. So I looked to my left, and there was my company commander, and he had a .45 caliber automatic pistol, and he was shooting the pistol. I said, "What are you doing, Captain?" He said, "Sergeant, I'm helping you." I said, "Helping me?" I said, "The range of your pistol is about 50 to 60 feet. The range of my machine gun is 250 yards, and I can barely hit him with that." So he said, "No, I'm helping." I said, "Okay." So the next day, my company commander said, "Get a Jeep, we're going to go to division headquarters." So we get a Jeep, go to division headquarters, and the general is going down the line, and he's passing out medals, and he's reading citations about what soldiers had done in the battle for Ruthin. He comes to me, and he reads a citation about what I had done, and he pins a bronze star medal on my chest, on my uniform. The captain's standing right next to me. He reads essentially the same citation that he read for me with the captain's name, and he pins a silver star on the captain's uniform. So when we go back in the Jeep, I said, "Captain, you're a great guy. You didn't do a damn thing. I did all the work. How come you got a silver star and I got a bronze star?" He said, "I'm a captain, you're a sergeant." So when I speak to kids, and I do all over, I say, if you ever want to go into the service, any service, get an education first. Become an officer. Don't be an enlisted man. Because when I see officers on television with medals from their neck down to their waist, I wonder sometimes how many they earned and how many they got because they put themselves in for medals. After we left Ruthin, we continued fighting on into Germany. And on April the 9th, we came to the city of Weimar in Germany. Weimar, Germany was the most well-educated city in the world in the late 1800s and early 1900s. They had more colleges and universities in the city of Weimar, Germany than any city in the world. They taught everything from astronomy to zoology and everything in between. It took us 3 days to pacify the city. And on the 11th day of April 1945, almost 64 years ago this month, last week, we left the city of Weimar and proceeded out of the city. And as we proceeded out of the city, we saw in the distance 4 smokestacks. And these smokestacks were blowing smoke right in the direction of the city of Weimar. As we got closer and closer to the smokestack area, we began to smell the smoke. The smell that we smelled that April the 11th morning was the smell of death. The smell that we smelled that morning was the smell of death. We got to the gates of this camp where the smokestacks were. It was a large area with double barbed wire fence and hundreds of wooden huts. We got to the gates of this camp, and it was locked from the outside with a huge chain and a padlock. We shot the lock off the gate, off the chain, and opened the gates. And what you're going to see in a few seconds are what I saw on April the 11th, 1945. Now, I told you I'm on the board of Elmhurst College. Every year for the last 19 years at Elmhurst College, we have had a Holocaust Week where we bring teachers in from all over the state of Illinois and our own education students at Elmhurst College to teach them how to teach the Holocaust to kids like you. Illinois, the state where we live, is one of only 8 states in the United States that mandates, that makes the teaching of the Holocaust mandatory in both the 7th or the 8th grade in grade school, and also you're going to get it in your junior year in high school, wherever you go to high school. only one of 8 states in the United States. 15 years ago, Elie Wiesel is the author of the book Night. I understand some of you have read the book Night. Raise your hands if you've read the book Night. Okay, thanks. Elie Wiesel is the author of the book Night. He was our guest speaker 15 years ago at Elmhurst College. And he and I were sitting in the chapel at Elmhurst College before he was to speak. And he looked at me and he said, "Mr. Ganet, how old are you?" And I said, "I'm 70 years old." He said, "Were you in World War II?" And I said, "Yes, I was." He said, "Where did you serve in World War II?" I said, "I was in the Army and I served in Europe." He said, "Did you come across any death camps when you were there?" I said, "Yes, one." He said, "Which one?" And I said, "Buchenwald." He pointed his finger at me and he said, "Mr. Ganet, you saved my life. I was scheduled to die on the 12th day of April, and you guys came in and liberated the camp on the 11th day of April." I went to pieces. I started to cry. He's a Nobel Prize winner for his books, and I'm just who I am. He said, "Mr. Ganet, have you told anybody about this?" I said, "No, it's too horrible. I can't." He said, "Look," he says, "you might not be around much longer than that, but I've been around 14 years longer than that." He said, "If you don't talk about this, there's so many people who deny that the Holocaust ever happened that it'll be lost." He said, "You must talk about this." So a friend of mine who worked in Villa Park had a business, and he called me and he said, "I was in the Signal Corps in World War II, and I have photographs of Buchenwald, which we took for the Army. Would you like copies of them?" And I said, "Yes, I would." So he brought those photographs in to me. And then the next day, the head of the social science department at York High School called me, and he said, "Mr. Ganet, would you come and speak to our junior class at York High School?" He said, "We'd love to have you do that." So I agonized over whether I could or not, because I hadn't told my family, my wife, any of my kids, my grandchildren, had not told them what I had seen that April the 11th. So I decided I would speak at York. So I went to York and I had these 16 photographs. But as you're speaking to, this class was the whole junior class, about 450 kids. You can't use these photographs for what you're saying because you can't relate what you're saying to what they're looking at. So I spoke at Bryan Junior High School in Elmhurst, and one of the teachers said, "I'll make these into slides. Would you like that?" And I said, "Yes." So what you're going to see now are slides that were taken by my friend from Villa Park in the death camp at Buchenwald. Some of these photographs are not pleasant to look at, and I'll understand if you have problems looking at them. This is a slide of me, and I'm standing beside a car which we have taken over. This is before the war ended. This was a great car. We had a lot of fun with it. The only problem was it only went in reverse. So the only way that we could go was backwards, but we didn't kill anybody with the car. The next slide you'll see is a slide of me. You can't see it. I'm in the center and I've got a bandage on my head. I was wounded before the war ended. I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. And I used to have a lot of hair at that point, which I don't have now. And these are two of my buddies, both from Tennessee. This soldier is dead. This soldier I speak to every couple of months. The first thing that we saw when we got into the camp was this cart full of the bodies of men, women, and children, all dead. All dead. all of us threw up at what we were witnessing, at the horror. This is a gallows, and beneath the gallows is a pile of ashes, of human ashes. We had our people turn all of the ovens off. I told you there were 4 smokestacks which were being fed by 16 ovens, which were cremating people, burning people, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And they put this pile of ashes there, probably to scare prisoners into doing something which they didn't want to do. Next slide is can't see this either, unfortunately. We brought out from the camp all of the dead people who were in these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of huts. And here you see, you can't see, but there are hundreds and hundreds of bodies of men, women, and children, all dead. This is the body of one of the prisoners. This is how they ended up. Another body. This is the Halloween. This is the body of a prisoner who was ill-fed, ill-clothed, worked to death. This is how he ended up. Now, I saw this. I saw this. So if anyone ever tells you that the Holocaust never happened, and that the president of Iran says that the Holocaust never happened, it's a figment of Jewish imagination. You tell them that on April the 16th, 2009, you heard from a man who saw the Holocaust, who witnessed it. So if anyone tells you it didn't happen, tell them they're goofy, because it did happen. This is a pile of bodies. The Germans couldn't cremate all the people they killed fast enough. So what they did was they had prisoners dig pits, and they would either shoot the prisoners who were not working for them, they shoot them in the head or club them to death, and then they would pile them throw them into these pits. And when they filled the pit up, they'd have another pit dug by prisoners and then continue doing the same thing, because they couldn't burn them fast enough in order to hide their crimes. This is a contraption. There's a prisoner in this thing, and there's a sign there that says what he had done, and he was dead. This is another prisoner hung by his hands, and same sign, and he was also dead. All of our officers, this was the first camp, Buchenwald was the first death camp that we opened. So all of our officers came to see what it was. Now in this photograph, this is Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, the head of the British forces. This is General Dwight David Eisenhower, who became the President of the United States. This is Omar Bradley, Eisenhower's Chief of Staff. And over here on the right is General George S. Patton. Now all of these American generals had fought in wars, in the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II. But none of them had seen man's inhumanity to man, what one group of people could do to one other group of people because they didn't like them. Now Hitler from 1932 to 1945 killed 11 million people. 11 million people from 1932 to 1945. Of the 11 million people, 6.5 million were Jews. 4.5 million were political prisoners, homosexuals, people, religious people, people who disagreed with Hitler, Poles, Russians, Italians, Greeks, Albanians, Romanians, Hungarians, all kinds of people. He killed 11 million people from 1932 to 1945. All of our generals cried at what they were witnessing. This is a prisoner who was standing here looking at one of his buddies. I don't think he found any. This is the saddest slide I had. We found in this pit, lying in the mud, these two little girls. This little girl maybe 5 months old, 6 months old, and the other little girl probably 8 or 9 years old. I put a pillow underneath the baby, and we put a shelter half underneath the older girl. Now I'll ask you students here at Jackson, what possible harm could these two little girls have been to the German army? Could they have thrown a hand grenade? Could they have fired a rifle? Answer me. Answer me. No, they couldn't. But because they were Jewish, they were killed. I was in Israel 7 years ago, and in Jerusalem, they have a Holocaust museum called Yad Vashem. And in this museum, they have one building. It's called the Children's Hall. And when you're walking through this building, it's dark on the inside except for one candle. And as you're walking through this building, on the loudspeaker, they're announcing the names, the countries of origin, and the ages of the 1.5 million Jewish children who were killed in World War II by the Germans from 32 to 45. Very sad. When I came out of there, I was crying. And the people I was with said, "Why are you crying?" And it reminded me of this slide of what I had seen with these two little girls. We came to the huts. We opened the doors of these huts. These huts had no windows, no toilet. They had a number 10 can in the corner. If you had to urinate in the middle of the night, you had to get off of your bunk and try and hit the number 10 can in the corner. It wasn't very easy. We opened the doors of these huts, and we found, this was the men's huts. We found these men. The healthiest were on the top bunks, the sickest were on the bottom. Now they were all hungry, so in an effort to help them, we gave them our food. But their systems had been so debilitated by the treatment that they had been receiving that they were not able to digest our food. And inadvertently, we killed a number of these prisoners. Our medical corps came in and said, "Don't give them food, just give them water." So we did that. The people who were the healthiest were slave laborers in Weimar at the BMW factory, at the Mercedes-Benz factory, at the Krupp munitions factory, and the Ford Motor Company factory, and the Bayer Aspirin factory in Weimar. In this photograph, this is Elie Wiesel. Right there is Elie Wiesel. If you read the book Night, you know that his father died in that hut right next to him, in this hut in Buchenwald. This is another hut, and also these very, very sad sacks of human beings. You can see the condition of these guys. They were just skin and bones. We came to the ovens where they were cremating people. And these are the bodies of dead prisoners who were put, after they were shot in the head or clubbed to death, put on carts, like hospital wheeled carts. And what they did was they had the prisoners who worked in the crematory roll the carts up to the ovens, the 16 ovens, and they had large, like metal pizza scoops, and they would scoop the bodies into the ovens, and then goodbye, Charlie. They were burned to a crisp. This is one of the ovens, and you can see unburned bones here at the top. And this is one of our soldiers here. Here are 2 more ovens. 16 of these going 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, cremating people. After we left the crematory, my company commander said, take a squad and see if you can find any German guards who might still be here. I told you the camp was. We left the day room and we scoured around and trying to find any female guards. And hiding in a garbage dump, we found these 5 female guards. I spoke Yiddish, which is very close to German, and I began to lie. I said, who was the wonderful artist who painted those lampshades in that day room? She raised her hand. Yes, I said, where did you get your canvas for your paintings? She said, I would go to the crematory and I would choose the bodies with the fairest skin. I would skin them or have them skinned, and I would stretch the skin and make them into canvas for my paintings. I took my .45 pistol out and I was going to blow her head off. Fortunately or unfortunately, my company commander came up and he said, Sergeant, if you do this, you'll be no better than she, and I will court-martial you. So I knew the war was going to end fairly soon and I wanted to go home, so I did not shoot her. Her name was Ilse Koch. She was the beast of Buchenwald. Her husband had been the commandant, the commander of the camp, but he had committed suicide before we got there. She was tried and hung about 3 weeks later. In my mind today, I wish I had shot her, but I didn't. We brought out from Weimar a lot of the people who lived in Weimar to help clean up the camp. And what you see here are German people, an American officer, and bodies of human beings here. The Germans didn't believe, they couldn't believe it. They said they knew nothing about it. Well, they were lying, because the smell of death was in their city every day of the week. They knew exactly what was happening. We made them clean the camp up. After the war, on April the 30th, a week before the war ended, we were very close. We were in Czechoslovakia. The Russians were coming from the east, and we were closing from the west. My division intelligence officer called me and he said, you speak German, don't you? And I said, yes. He said, would you get a Jeep, come and get me. I want to see what's going on in front of us. So I got a Jeep, picked him up at division headquarters, and we drove out about a mile in front of our lines. And we were subjected to an artillery barrage, German artillery barrage. And the colonel sitting next to me in the Jeep got killed. And I got a very, very severe head wound from the artillery that the Germans had shot at us. They rushed me to a field hospital, and I didn't want to go back any further. I said, can you stop the bleeding and sew me up? I want to come back and finish the war with my buddies. So they did, and I went back to my unit about the 5th day of May, 1945, and we met the Russian army at the Elbe River out in Czechoslovakia. And we didn't speak Russian, or could they speak English, but we had a lot of whiskey. And we were able to understand them and they were able to understand us, even though we had languages which neither of us understood. But the whiskey was the great equalizer. After that, we were on military government duty. And I'll tell you one story. A buddy of mine and myself used to go into a tavern in the town, one of the towns we were in charge of every night, and we'd drink beer. And one night, we're at the bar, and two beautiful young German ladies came in, and they sat down at a table, and we figured, let's try and make some time with these two ladies. And so we had the bartender send 2 beers over for these 2 ladies. Well, they refused to take the beer. This went on for probably 3 nights. 4th night, they came in again. We sent the beer over, they took the beer. And we went and sat at the table with them, and they were 2 sisters, 2 beautiful girls. And so we're talking to them, I'm speaking German, they're listening. And the older sister opens her purse, and out from her purse she opened her purse to get a cigarette, and out from her purse fell a .32 Walther PPK pistol. This is the James Bond gun, the Walther PPK. And I took the gun, I said, you're not allowed to have this. They got up in a huff and went out. We didn't see them again for a couple more weeks. They came back in a couple weeks later, and we tried the same scenario, sending them beers. Finally, they accepted, and we sat and talked to them. We said, we'd like to take you guys out for dinner. How about tomorrow night? They said, okay, come and pick us up at whatever time. So we go back to our headquarters, and our company commander says, tonight, that is tomorrow night, we're going to pull a raid on all of the top Nazis, all of the top German Nazis who were in this province of Bavaria. So he goes around, he's passing out the names and addresses of people we're supposed to pick up. So I looked at the name and address that he had given us. It's the name of these girls' father and the address of these girls' house. So I said to the colonel, I said, Colonel, give us a different name. We don't want this name. Because I didn't want to pull this, we wanted to date these 2 ladies, and we knew that we couldn't if we'd taken their father. He said, no, this is the top Nazi, you must get him. So we went to this, found this address, and all throughout the province at 2 o'clock in the morning, we were told to knock on the doors and get these guys. So we came to the house, and at 2 o'clock we went to the door, knocked on the door. This one younger sister comes to the door, she's in her pajamas. And we said, get out of the way. We went into the bedroom. Her mother and father were lying in bed. We grabbed her father, handcuffed him, took him out. He was put on trial. He was the top Nazi in the province. I don't know what happened to him, but we never saw these 2 young ladies again. After the war was over, long after, in August of 1945, my unit, the 26th Infantry Unit, were chosen to be the guards at the Nuremberg War Crimes Trials. The Nuremberg War Crimes Trials were the trials where we put on trial all of the top Nazis who had either not fled Germany or had not committed suicide. And in my unit, the 26th Infantry Regiment of the 1st Division were chosen to be the guards there. We guarded the Grand Hotel in Nuremberg. We ran the Grand Hotel in Nuremberg. We guarded the judges' homes. There were British, French, American, and Russian judges. The Russians had their own guards, but the British, French, and Americans were guarded by us. We guarded the jail. We guarded the courtroom. And one of the jobs that I had in September, or late September, was to be one of the sergeants of the guard at the jail. Now, what you see here is the courtroom in Nuremberg. These are all soldiers in my unit. We were wearing white helmets and we had white belts. And here you see all of the top German prisoners. This is Hermann Goering, who was the #2 Nazi. This is Rudolf Hess, who had been the #3 Nazi. This is the foreign minister, von Ribbentrop. This is General Keitel, the head of the army. Admiral Jodl, the head of the navy. And this is the finance minister, Schacht. And all of these guys were on trial. The first war crimes trials in Nuremberg. One of the jobs that I had when I told you I was sergeant of the guard at the prison. And every morning at 7 o'clock when I came on, I would walk all the cells to make sure the prisoners were okay. And one Saturday morning when I came on at 7 o'clock, I checked all these prisoners were fine. I went and sat down to do some work at my desk. And about 10 o'clock I hear sergeant of the guard, cell number 6. So I run to cell number 6, and there on the floor of the cell lay Hermann Goering, the #2 Nazi. This guy, right here, lying on the cell floor with bleeding from the mouth. So we opened the cell door, checked him out, and he was dead. Now what I believe happened to him, how he committed suicide. His wife used to come in every night. She used to come to the trial every day. And every night she'd come to the jail and kiss him goodnight through the bars. And then she transferred a cyanide pill, a poison pill, from her lips to his. And Friday night she did that. But if he had taken the pill Friday night, he would have been dead Friday night. But he was alive on Saturday morning. But I think what happened, a lot of these top German officials had cyanide pills sewn on the inside of their cheeks. And when they knew that the jig was up, they would chomp down on their cheeks, and the pill would open, and they would bleed, and they would die. I think that's what happened to Hermann Goering. Anyway, he thwarted the hangman's noose because he committed suicide. That's the end of my slide presentation. So I want to reiterate again that if someone ever tells you that the Holocaust never happened, tell them they're full of baloney. Now I want to ask you if you know the definition of 2 words. The first word is tolerance. Can any of you 8th, 7th graders give me a definition of the word tolerance? Pretty close. When I look at this audience, I don't only see white faces. I see brown faces, I see black faces, I see Oriental faces. We are all God's children, all of us, regardless of how we look, regardless of what color our skin is, or the kind of hair that we have. We're all God's children. And tolerance is accepting people for who they are without regard to how they look. Accepting people and understanding people for how they look. So if you remember anything that I've said, remember that word, tolerance. Now I'm going to ask you if you know the definition of the word indifference. Can anyone give me a definition of the word indifference? These 2 guys are best buddies. And they're walking home from school. Slowly. These 2 guys, this little guy and this big guy, they don't like him. So they start beating him up. His best friend continues to walk home and lets his friend be beaten up. What he has done is being indifferent to what's happening to his buddy by walking away. You'll get the Academy Award next year. Thank you. So if you learn anything from what I've said, remember those 2 words, tolerance and indifference. And teach them as you grow older and have children of your own. Teach them those 2 words, tolerance and indifference. And we'll have a better country, much better country than we have now. I think one of the great things about the United States is we were able to elect an African-American president. And I think that was fantastic. So I'll be very happy to answer any questions that any of you have. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Raise your hand and I'll recognize you. Anybody? Did I ever encounter Hitler? Is that what you asked? No, Hitler died in Berlin. The Russians were attacking Berlin and Hitler died way before, about a week before the war ended. How many people did we save from the camp? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Yes, sir. Were there many female soldiers? There were no female soldiers. The American, we never had female soldiers until we went to a volunteer army, and that was probably 10 or 15 years ago. Yes? How long was I at Buchenwald? I was at Buchenwald about 7 or 8 hours. What was the age range of the prisoners in the death camp? From babies to old people. How do I feel about teaching kids about the Holocaust? I feel great that I'm alive to be able to do it, number one. And I feel great that you're going to listen to me, and that kids your age will teach them that to your children. Now, in Darfur in Africa, this guy who runs this country in Africa is killing hundreds of thousands of people now. The Holocaust in Africa is still going on. We have it in the Far East, in Cambodia, where they kill millions of people. Yes. I was not a prisoner. The only people who had numbers on their arms were prisoners. I was an American. I was not a prisoner. Were the people put in the ovens when they were alive? No, they killed them first. They hit them, they were unconscious, most of them. And then they put them into the ovens. Is it hard to talk about this? The older I am and the longer I do this, the easier it is for me. When I started talking, when I first spoke at York High School, it was very, very difficult. What did the Bronze Star signify and the Silver Star? Bravery in action from doing a certain, whatever you did. That's what the medal signifies. Somebody there have their hands up? How many death camps were there? Hundreds. Hundreds of death camps throughout Germany. The Russians liberated the death camp at Auschwitz. And if any of you have seen Schindler's List, have any of you seen the movie Schindler's List? Anyway, that was about the camp at Auschwitz.
If they had female guards, how come they didn't have female soldiers?
If there were female guards, they were German guards. I have no idea why the Germans didn't have one. We didn't have female soldiers. Okay, one more thing. In 1977, the mayor of Elmhurst came in my store. I used to own Leonard's Men's Store on York Street in Elmhurst. And the mayor of Elmhurst, named Ray Fick, came into my store and he said, Abner, I'm not going to run for mayor again. And we think you should run for mayor. You know everybody in town. You're chairman of the YMCA, you're president of the Rotary Club, you're on the bank board, you know everybody in town. We think you could win. So I said, gee, thanks, Ray, but I don't know if I want to do that. So I went and talked to my wife who worked for me. She was in the back, and I said, the mayor was in and asked me if I'd run for mayor, because he's not going to run. So she said, over my dead body. She didn't want me to run. The next day, a man comes into my store. His name is John Jordan. He was my alderman. He was the alderman of the 7th Ward where I live. And he came in and he said, Abner, I understand you're thinking of running for mayor. I said, no, John, I'm not going to run. He said, well, I'm going to run. And if you run, I'm going to beat you. Now, we had two parties in Elmhurst. We had the Citizens Party and the People's Party. I was in the People's Party, and he was in the Citizens Party. And he said to me, if you run, I'm going to beat you. I said, is that right? He said, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you can't win. I said, what are the 3 reasons, John? He said, the first reason is you're a businessman, and they'll never elect a businessman to be the mayor of the city of Elmhurst. I said, what's the second reason, John? He said, you were divorced. This is a very strong Catholic community, and they'll never elect a divorced person to be the mayor. I said, what's the third reason, John? He said, the third reason is you're a Jew, and they'll never elect a Jew to be the mayor of Elmhurst. I said, you SOB, get out of my store. I threw him out of my store. I said, not only are you going to run, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to destroy you. I beat him 4-1, thanks to Jack Gale and a lot of other people at Elmhurst. 4 years later, a man who had been our assistant city manager, Neil Fulton, decided he was going to run for mayor. And he belonged to a church in Oak Brook called Christ Church. And a woman who worked for me belonged to that church. And she came in one Monday morning and showed me a letter that he had distributed to Elmhurst residents who went to Christ Church. And in that letter he says he's running for mayor of Elmhurst. And he then says he quotes 2 sections of the New Testament which state that only Gentiles can lead people. And he announces he's running for mayor. So I saw this letter, and the woman who worked for me said she couldn't believe this. So I called 2 members of my Rotary Club, a Lutheran minister and a Presbyterian minister. And I said, bring your Bibles into my store. I also called the minister of Christ Church, Reverend DeCruyter, the church where he belonged. And I said, could you come into my store? So they came into my store and I sat him down in the shoe department. And I had copies of the letter which he had distributed. And I said, would you show me in your Bible where it says this, chapter and verse, that only Gentiles are allowed to lead people? So they turned to the chapters and verse that he had spelled out. And it didn't say it at all. It was a total lie. It was a total lie. So that was a very, very dirty campaign. I beat him 3-1 in that election. It was a terrible election. Anyway, you've heard all my stories. I thank you very, very much for your attendance. You've been a great audience. Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody again for being very respectful and listening. It's a great lesson that Mr. Ganet has taught you all, and I hope that you keep it in your brains and show the actions that he has taught you in future years.